Great, that's carried. Oh, there's here, cool. Public forum. So have I got David Lynch here? No. Okay. Have I got Troy Hall here? Okay, we might skip that and we'll come to our first deputation, which is John Minto. I think I saw John. Welcome, John. Come on up. And this is in relation to item 7.
We'll be sitting down in a minute.
Enga mana, enga reo, enga mana whenua o tēnei rohi, enga hoe whā. Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi mahana ki a koutou. Yeah, greetings everybody, and thank you very much to councillors for the opportunity to come and speak this morning about the item that's coming up on the agenda in relation to the Council adopting a policy lined up with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2334. This Resolution 2334 was co-sponsored at the United Nations Security Council by the New Zealand government in 2016 when Bill English was the Prime Minister and Murray McCully was Minister of Foreign Affairs. And through this resolution, the United Nations Security Council stated that in the occupied Palestinian territories, Israeli settlements had, quote, no legal validity and constituted a flagrant violation under international law. It said they were a major obstacle to the achievement of the two-state solution and a just, lasting and comprehensive peace in the Middle East. The resolution goes on and calls on countries to distinguish between the land of the State of Israel and the land it occupied from 1967. And to assist with this, the United Nations Human Rights Council was asked to create a database of companies complicit in building and maintaining illegal Israeli settlements. The companies concerned are listed in the notes for this resolution on your agenda. So the current Aotearoa New Zealand government supports this UN Security Council Resolution 2334, as do all opposition parties. In other words, it's a bipartisan approach from our politicians. So why does this matter now? Well, it matters now because in December 2022, Israel elected its most extreme ethno-nationalist government ever, and as well as stepping up the brutal repression of Palestinians, they also made clear they will not negotiate peace with Palestinians. They will not negotiate for the formation of a Palestinian state. Instead, they said their top priority is to push ahead with more illegal Israeli settlements on occupied Palestinian land. In the last week of June 2023, Israel's leaders announced plans to build more than 5,000 additional houses in these illegal settlements. And today, as we sit here in this room, Palestinians are being driven off their land by Israeli settler gangs that have been emboldened by the genocidal rhetoric of Israeli leaders. So the expansion of these illegal settlements and the failure of Western governments to hold Israel to account is one of the reasons Palestinian resistance groups made up what could be called a prison break on October the 7th last year, and resistance fighters attacked and overran 6 Israeli military bases. And as we know, the past year has seen many war crimes committed, including the crimes of genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, collective punishment, wholesale killing of civilians and destruction of civilian infrastructure, schools, universities, etc., starvation being used as a weapon of war, and the denial of humanitarian aid. All of these crimes should be investigated and prosecuted by the International Criminal Court. Today, Israel is running riot across the Middle East because it has never been held to account for 76 years of flagrant breaches of international law. What is happening now in northern Gaza is the starvation and industrial-scale slaughter of Palestinian civilians as Israel tries to drive them out and seize the land through ethnic cleansing. Palestinians have appealed to the world to support their struggle with non-violent pressure through BDS, that's boycotts, divestment and sanctions. This is the same request as made by black South Africans struggling against South Africa's apartheid policies last century. It's important to say here that every credible human rights group, groups such as Al-Haq, B'Tselem, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International, have all declared Israel to be an apartheid state. B'Tselem, for example, Israel's largest and most respected human rights organisation, describes Israel as, quote, a regime of Jewish supremacy from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. They say this is apartheid. So we're urging our mayor and city councillors today to take a small but significant step in sanctioning Israel in line with the United Nations resolution, for which, as I said earlier, there is bipartisan support from our politicians. We're very pleased to say that Environment Canterbury passed a similar motion early this year. But if this motion passes today, Christchurch will be the first city in New Zealand to end Israeli impunity for war crimes. And I say that because building settlements on occupied land that belongs to someone else is illegal under international law. It is a war crime under international law. And that vote at ECAN earlier this year was 14 votes in favour and 2 against. And I'm hoping today that the vote will be 16 votes in favour and no votes against. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you, John, for that. And can I just remind the gallery, it is respectful for everyone if we can just remain silent while people are speaking. Does anyone have any questions for John? Sorry.
That's
You
fine.
go for it.
Tēnā koutou katoa, dear people's representatives and members of the City Council. My name is Josephine Vargis. I am a lecturer at University of Canterbury. I focus on studies of imperialism, peace, and conflict. 6 Palestinians were among the 51 killed in Christchurch mosque attacks. The gruesome mosque terror attacks on March 15 were rightly described as one of the darkest days, not only in the cities, but in Aotearoa, New Zealand's history. On that day and for the weeks and months that followed, we came together in solidarity, pledging to never allow that kind of violence to occur on civilians again. We refused to other the members of our Otutahi Palestinian and Muslim communities affected. They are us, we said. This is the moment to uphold our commitment that we made on March 15 to the well-being and the protection of the loved ones of the members in our community. Christchurch got this title of Peace City in the year 2002 in recognition of the city's long-standing commitment and efforts towards peace and justice, not only in our corner of the world, but internationally. This tradition is over 100 years old, starting in the early 20th century when working class men and women of the city protested the inter-imperialist war and against the compulsory conscription. Among them was Ada Wells, the first female city councillor of Christchurch. And today is an opportunity for all of you to walk in the footsteps of giants like Ada Wells and like Elsie Locke, to take a stand in favor of peace. Respected council members, 85% of schools, 100% of universities, and 100% of the hospitals in Gaza have been damaged or completely destroyed by this onslaught. The figure of deaths is at 44,000, of which at least 15,000 are children. Boycotting products and services which support and benefit from colonization and apartheid is the long-standing peaceful means of protest adopted by freedom fighters across the world, not only by Black South Africans against apartheid, but also in the Indian independence struggle by the likes of Gandhi. This is a rare opportunity for us to follow in the footsteps of these greats and make a historic move, not only for Christchurch City, but also for Aotearoa, New Zealand. On March 15, 2019, we made headlines for all the wrong reasons. And today could be an opportunity where we make headlines globally for the right reasons. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you both very much. And sorry I cut you off. I didn't realise you were speaking as well, so that's fantastic. We've got 45 seconds. Aaron?
Yeah, John, did you say that October 7th was only an attack on military bases in Israel?
No, I didn't say that. No.
Oh, okay, that's all right. I just thought you might have, but you didn't mention the atrocities of October 7th, which triggered this.
I've mentioned the war crimes that committed on October the 7th and since then. All war crimes should be investigated. And we've been very clear.
By all sides?
By all sides, absolutely.
Just double checking.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Look, thank you both very much for that deputation.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
so
you.
Next up, we've got Ben. I want to say Keps. Ben, hopefully I've said that correctly. And Ben is on Zoom, speaking about item 7 as well. So Ben, we'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no worries. Yep.
Awesome. Kia ora te whānau. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry I can't be there today. It was highly offensive to hear the previous speaker characterise October 7th as a prison
Sorry,
break.
Ben, can I just stop? What I'm not going to have today is people talking about other deputations, just given the sensitivity. So if you can keep it to your points, that would be great.
Absolutely. So context there that on October 7th, mass rape, hostage taking and beheading occurred. But that's not actually what we're here to discuss today. What we're here to discuss is this motion around BDS. So thank you for your time today. I stand before you, albeit virtually, as a spokesperson for the New Zealand Jewish Council, local entrepreneur, professional board member, but perhaps most poignantly, the son of refugees who are themselves Holocaust survivors. I urge you not to enforce this flawed and unworkable policy which singles out Israel through the boycott, divestment and sanctions or BDS movement. The BDS movement against Israel is both impractical and unjust for several reasons. Israel is deeply integrated into the global economy, especially in areas like technology, agriculture and medicine. Cancer treatments, ubiquitous GPS tools and irrigation systems, all used here in Otatahi, Christchurch, have their origins in full or in part in Israel. Boycotting Israel's technological and economic contributions would be highly impractical. Even those who sympathise with the political goals of BDS find it extremely difficult to maintain a boycott when confronted with the reality of global supply chains and the reliance on Israeli products. Secondly, BDS unfairly singles out Israel while ignoring the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the broader Middle Eastern geopolitical landscape. Israel is the only democracy in the region. A country that keeps the rule of law, has a free press and guarantees civil liberties to all its citizens. Israel is also one of the few countries in the region that protects the rights of the LGBTQ+ community. It recognises same-sex marriages, something absolutely unimaginable in many neighbouring countries, where basic civil rights are often denied. Yet BDS focuses solely on Israel, ignoring that Israel is unique in a region dominated by authoritarian regimes. Many of Israel's neighbours impose severe restrictions on freedom of speech, freedom of the press, gender equality and human rights. However, these regimes escape the scrutiny of BDS, which paints Israel as an authoritarian regime. This mischaracterisation is not only unjust, but also misleading. It oversimplifies a deeply complex conflict, and by doing so, it undermines the possibility of a balanced and fair resolution. Moreover, BDS doesn't just target the Israeli government or specific policies. It extends its reach to private citizens, businesses, academic institutions, and cultural entities. This broad scope has led to accusations of a collective punishment. The movement harms ordinary Israelis who may oppose certain government policies or actively work for peace. By isolating all Israelis, BDS discourages collaboration between Israelis and Palestinians, stifling opportunities for joint ventures that could foster greater understanding and cooperation. Furthermore, the BDS movement has often been criticised for fostering anti-Semitism, even if this is not always the explicit intention. By calling for blanket boycotts of all Israeli entities, the movement sometimes crosses a line where legitimate criticism of government policies becomes indistinguishable from hostility towards Jewish communities worldwide. We have seen, even ourselves here in Christchurch, instances where Jewish individuals and institutions outside of Israel have been targeted as a result of BDS actions, even when they have no direct connection to the Israeli government. This broadening of hostility not only fuels anti-Semitism, but also risks polarising communities and undermining efforts to promote peace. When it comes to procurement decisions, those decisions should be based on clear, consistent, and fair approaches. These decisions should be designed to balance risk, return, and ethical considerations based on objective guidelines. Cherry-picking certain geopolitical issues or focusing on specific countries while ignoring others not only undermines the integrity of these investment frameworks, but also politicises financial decisions in an unhelpful way. For example, many councils and organisations that support BDS have not taken similar positions on other global issues, such as the conflicts in Ukraine or the Congo, or the plight of the Uyghurs. Even closer to Israel, in Syria, Assad has killed hundreds of thousands of his own countrymen, but councils don't take umbrage with that. Singling out Israel while ignoring other troubling actions in other nations exposes an inconsistency in applying moral and ethical principles. If the council chooses to take a stand on Israel but remains silent on other pressing international issues, it risks being perceived as selective in its outrage, which can undermine its credibility and make its actions appear politically motivated rather than grounded in consistent ethical values. Rather than promoting peace, BDS deepens divisions. A more constructive approach would be to encourage dialogue, cooperation and mutual understanding between Israelis and Palestinians, recognising the complexities of the conflict and the shared humanity of both sides. I urge you not to go down the BDS rabbit hole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, for that. And I've got a question from Tyler.
Kia ora, Ben. Shalom. Thank you so much for coming in. I just wanted to ask a question based on your statement on risk, return and ethical situations. And what we noticed within the deputation, which was quite substantial, thank you for that, is you do realise that this item that we're voting on today is only regarding the illegal occupation as based in the UN 2334, not Israeli companies within Israel.
Yeah, I do, but the UN resolution has a pretty broad brush application, and if you look at the list of companies that are mentioned there, it is very broad. So I would argue that it's far broader than simply the illegal occupations, and its impact is much broader than just that.
Can you hone in on that broad part, Ben, just so I can gain some understanding?
Yeah, so as I sort of mentioned in my submission, there's a lot of organisations, a lot of individuals that are striving for peace, that are working to collaborate alongside with Palestinians. Many of them are involved in the organisations that are listed in the UN resolution in that list. And so a broad brush approach that boycotts those organisations can actually impact on their abilities to partner and collaborate in striving for peace with their Palestinian brothers.
Those are interesting statements. I really thank you for that. But what we're talking about is the occupation of the West Bank and Jerusalem, more specifically. So, in that statement, are you saying to vote down all of the item that stands?
I'm saying that BDS is a flawed approach, and I would urge the council to not follow the BDS.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben, for that. Appreciate your time in making the effort. So now, is Victoria here? Great. Victoria, do you want to come on down? You might just have to lead her through, please, team. Great, welcome along. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So I just have a short and sweet thing that I've written. I was informed of, this policy proposal just yesterday. I'm not nearly as informed as Keeps is, but I'll try my best to say my mind as a member of the Jewish community. So, kia ora, shalom, and dobry din to the councillors of Otautahi. I would like to ask the councillors why they intend to take a position on the illegal occupation of the West Bank when they have never outwardly taken a position on the illegally occupied land taken from Māori during the land wars, or any other countries in the world. I would also like to ask the councillors why they intend to follow this particular UN recommendation when they do not uphold other UN recommendations, such as UNDRIP, Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN 2030 Agenda, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and many other United Nations-aligned guidelines and proposals. As a person who has Ukrainian family members who have come to Aotearoa on the special Ukraine visa, I ask why the councillors are entertaining a performative motion that does not help any Palestinian, and instead of using your position to pressure our central government into establishing a special Palestinian territory visa. You yourselves have stated in the agenda that the Christchurch City Council does not currently do business with any organizations included on the United Nations Human Rights Council's list, after all. I believe this item is not only a waste of ratepayer money, a waste of citizen and councillor time, but is also a giant bureaucratic burden, as your own agenda states. Exemption being approved by the chief executive will override this policy. Thank you for listening to my points.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for coming in and making that short and sweet. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? No? Great. Hey, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That. Okay, so now I do see Mr. David Lynch in the audience, and we'll move back to public forum. So, David.